Hi, hi, hi. Okay, I know this is a short flight, but I do have a couple things at the top. This is important. So to start, I wanted to mention that open enrollment in the Affordable Care Act marketplace, where more than 20 million Americans get health insurance, starts today. More than a decade after passage of the law, Americans' health care remains under threat. Just this week, Speaker Johnson promised massive reform to the ACA. The Republican Study Committee budget cuts a staggering $4.5 trillion from the ACA, Medicaid, and the Children's Health Insurance Program, consistent with every budget proposed by the former president. Senator J.D. Vance has taken aim at the very idea of the risk pooling between healthy and sick, which lies at the heart of the ACA. And Republicans in Congress have made clear that one of their first orders of business would be raising premiums in ACA health insurance by an average of $800 per person per year. President Biden and Vice President Harris have done the opposite, bringing health insurance to more people than ever before, lowering ACA premiums by $800 per year, getting rid of red tape that the prior administration used to try to keep people from enrolling, and expanding enrollment support. The president and vice president will keep standing up for the affordable health insurance, and they will block any attempt to rip it away. Shifting gears just a second, I wanted to quickly discuss a recent ProPublica series highlighting reports of women in states like Texas and Georgia who have died after being denied the life-saving care they need because of extreme abortion bans. The stories are heartbreaking, scary, and sickening. It's hard to believe or accept as reality, and it's completely unacceptable. This should never happen in America, but sadly it is, and these abortion bans that are denying women life-saving care are only possible because the former president appointed 3 Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade. The devastating and gut-wrenching consequences of these bans put in place or enforced by Republican elected officials are very clear. President Biden and Vice President Harris believe that women in every state must have the right to make deeply personal decisions about their health. They also believe that no woman should ever be denied the care she needs. They will continue to fight back against these extreme bans and call on Congress to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade into federal law. And finally, we're en route, as you all know, to Philadelphia, where the president will announce new actions to further his administration's historic support for unions. While in Philadelphia, he'll announce that his administration has protected 1.2 million pensions because of the American Rescue Plan's Butch-Lewis Act. During the visit, President Biden will announce new funding to prevent cuts to the earned pensions benefits of 29,000 UFCW workers and retirees. As you can see to my right, I'm joined by Acting Secretary Labor Julia Su, who will share more about today's action and the historic work the President and the Vice President have done to support unions.
Thank you so much, Karine. Thank you all for being here. And Karine mentioned this. We are headed to Philadelphia to announce the restoration of the UFCW Tri-State Pension Fund. This is part of the president's commitment, which he has had from day one, to do right by working people. We know that when jobs are good, when working people are protected, our economy is stronger, our nation is stronger. This is the third event that I'm doing like this. The first one was with the carpenters in Detroit. The second was with the Teamsters in Centralia, Illinois. Again, a situation where working people who had worked a lifetime and were expecting to be able to retire with dignity because of their pensions, were seeing the end of those pensions, and we're going to see their benefits slashed dramatically because of the Butch-Lewis Act, because of the actions of President Biden and Vice President Harris, noting that Vice President Harris cast the deciding vote to pass the American Rescue Plan, of which the Butch-Lewis Act is a part. Because of that, these individuals are now going to be able to retire, to be able to live with dignity, to be able to take care of themselves and their families as they expected. This announcement also comes obviously on the same day that we've had a Jobs Day, and it's always a time to talk about good jobs, because this administration now has presided over more jobs being created than any other administration in the same time period. It's now over 16 million jobs. GDP remains strong. Inflation is still falling. Wages are still increasing. Wages have grown faster than inflation for now 17 months straight, and the unemployment rate remains at 4.1%. So it's been around 4% for the longest stretch since the 1960s. So labor market remains very strong, and this shows what happens when you have a president and vice president who are fighting for workers every single day.
Thank you, Secretary. On the jobs report, should Americans be concerned that the economy is cooling in this moment? And what is the administration doing at the moment to ensure that jobs continue to be generated going forward?
Great. So, 2 questions and 2 answers. No, we should not be concerned about cooling. There were some anomalies last month that led to a much lower jobs number. One was, of course, the devastating hurricanes, back-to-back hurricanes that hit the southeast part of the country. We saw people who lost their lives, lost their homes, lost their businesses. The federal government was on the ground immediately working with state and local authorities to do everything from search and rescue to clearing roads to making sure that people had water and power back. But in terms of the jobs numbers, it meant that there were employers who, would have been hiring or may have been even ramping up because of the holiday season coming up, who just simply couldn't do that. So the hurricanes had a really big effect. And then, of course, there were workers on strike, over 30,000 of them. When they're on strike, their numbers also show up as a decrease in the jobs, which is the nature of the numbers. But what do we need to do to continue the incredible economy that we have had is to keep on making the investments that the Biden-Harris administration has had. We've got over 60,000 infrastructure projects going on around the country. I've visited many of them. We have apprenticeship programs bursting at the seams, people being able to look for jobs and get jobs in communities that were shuttered, where factories were closed in the last administration, now opening up again, and we just need to keep up that work.
Yes, for the Boeing strike situation, sounds like there's a vote set for Monday, if memory serves. Can you speak to what your view is on the latest on that, and whether membership will accept, whether you expect that this will pass as opposed to the previous time when it
So I was in Seattle from Monday to Wednesday. I brought the parties together at my office in Seattle. They, deserve a lot of credit. I want to acknowledge the leadership of both the machinists and Boeing for coming to the table and doing the hard work of negotiating. The president says this all the time. The vice president acknowledges this all the time. Collective bargaining works. It doesn't always look pretty from the outside, but when workers have a voice, when unions are strong and workers are able to help determine the conditions of their work, their wages, the future of their industry, it's better for everybody. And so now they have an unprecedented offer on the table that many people thought was impossible, and they're going to vote on it on Monday.
sounds like you think it'll pass?
I don't know. We believe that it's up to the members, of course. But these workers have not seen a wage increase like this in a very, very long time. In fact, the first year wage increase is more than what they've had in the last many years combined. So it's really a sign of collective bargaining working, and workers exercise their right. They're part of what we're seeing in a Biden-Harris America of a new era of worker power, and it is resulting in not just the tremendous job growth we keep talking about, but really more equity and more power for working people.
You touched on this, but just to be specific, because the president said in his statement that job growth is expected to rebound in November as the hurricane recovery and rebuilding efforts continue. Can you give us a sense of what you would project that could look like? What could the November picture be?
So, obviously, the devastating weather-related phenomena that we have been facing, has an impact, right? It has a devastating direct personal impact on communities that are affected. It also has an impact on the economy. And so, barring something else like that, that was not a sign of weakness in the economy. That was really a weather-related phenomena. And so, barring that, we expect those communities to recover. We're obviously not just watching it happen or hoping it happens. We're in there helping it to happen. And so, again, the investments that we're making is really the key here, right? We would not have seen the kind of economy, the 16 million jobs created without that. This is not an administration that has just, hoped for the best. It's one that inherited the economy that was still reeling from a global pandemic that the last administration had no idea how to address. And what we have done is, really, exceeded all expectations on the recovery. We need to keep on doing that work. We need to make sure that those infrastructure projects keep breaking ground, that the fabs that are being built, are completed, and having union workers do that is a part of that too. And so, there's no reason to expect that the resilient economy that we've seen so far will not bounce back from the anomalies of October.
Was President Biden's transcript
Hold on a
altered?
second. Wait a
Yeah.
minute. Wait a minute. Is any other for the secretary? Could have her sit down if we're done.
Keep it tight because we're going to land soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Be
so
careful.
much. Thank you all.
Be careful. Hold on. I'm gonna let AP go first. Go ahead, AP.
Thank you, Karine. On AP's reporting from last night about the potential doctored comments in the recent transcript, were you aware that the White House press office had done this before the stenographer had taken an approval?
I was asked this question, multiple versions of this question on Wednesday. I don't have anything else more to share. What I can say is, and the president put out a statement that was tweeted out, that's on X, obviously, being very clear what he meant, understanding that his words could have been taken out of context. He was talking about the comedian. He was talking about the hateful rhetoric coming out of from the comedian at the Sunday rally in Madison Square Garden. And I said this on Wednesday, and I'm going to keep saying this, is that the president's always going to continue to call out hateful rhetoric. But of course, and you see this today with the pensions announcement. You saw it this week when he went to Baltimore to announce some ports infrastructure investment, $147 million that went to Baltimore, to Maryland specifically. 27 states, 11 of those states are red states. I mean, these are things that the president wants to continue about, and he always will be a president for everyone, even if you did not vote for him. I don't have anything else to share beyond that. What we want to make sure, we think what the most important thing for Americans to know is that this is a president that went back and wanted to clarify what he said because he didn't want to take it out of context. I think that says a lot about this president. And we've been pretty consistent about him wanting to be a president and continuing to be a president for all Americans. And that's what you're going to see. I don't have anything else to add beyond that.
What does you all received reports about Iran potentially having a strike against, a retaliatory strike from its proxies.
So, as you said, there are reports that Israeli intelligence suggests Iran is preparing to attack Israel from Iraqi territory in the coming days, possibly before the U.S. presidential election. Is that the U.S. view as well? I'm going to be really careful. I'm not going to your question, I'm not going to speculate or discuss intelligence assessments on this from here. But we've been very clear that Iran should not respond. I said this on Wednesday. We will continue to support Israel. Our support for Israel's security is ironclad. And if they choose us to do so, obviously we will continue to support Israel as they continue to protect themselves and their security. So I don't have anything to share. I'm not going to read into that.
Is the president aware of former President Trump's comments about Liz Cheney that he made last night, and does he have a reaction to that?
So he's aware. Obviously, you all have covered those remarks. Here's what I would say to that: it is unacceptable. It is dangerous to speak to political violence, to talk about political violence, to lift up political violence. And what we are doing, and we will continue to do, is denounce that, condemn that. There's no place anywhere for any type of violence, no place for political violence. And this is a time we shouldn't be using inflammatory language. We should be specifically focusing on bringing the country together, and that's what this president wants to see, and that's what he's going to continue to speak to.
Do you think those comments put Liz Cheney at risk?
I mean, look, I can't speak to that. I can't get into hypotheticals. What we know is that those type of comments tend to be dangerous, right? They can be dangerous. We're hearing violent rhetoric, and we're going to continue to condemn that. It is inappropriate in the political space, and it is inflammatory language that should not be said by anyone. Certainly, not when someone has a leadership, national leadership.
Has there been any discussion about heightening the security preparations this week in response to what we've seen, whether it's ahead of the election, after the election, for certain members of Congress? What does that look like at this point?
For certain members of Congress specifically?
Well, just for that, and then broader security preparations.
I would have to, as it relates to Congress, obviously that's something for the Capitol Police can speak to. I can't speak to that. Look, I think that what you'll see from this president is that free and fair elections, and especially peaceful election, are the cornerstone of our democracy. And election officials and poll workers are dedicated to public servants who make our democracy work, and they deserve to do their job safely and freely, without harassment, without threat of violence. So we strongly condemn anyone who threatens or harasses them. And so, but I also believe, and we also believe, that people should trust in our institutions and trust that this will be a free and fair election.
What about Lebanon? Can you give us a status report? Are those talks dead?
So a couple of things, as you know, Brett, and all right, well, we gotta go. We'll have more. We can share. I would reach out to the NSC team, and they'll share more about things where we have to sit down. Thanks, everybody. Be careful. It's really bumpy.